Hey guys, this is WhatiF here, and boy, as you see in the title, this has been something I've been wanting to do forever, and I'm so happy I did that because it was a blast watching this 2000 Bud Shootout race. So, if anybody isn't aware or hasn't watched the vlogs, what I'll be doing is I'll be reviewing old NASCAR races from 2000 on up. I might do older ones someday, but I want to start from 2000 because it is the start of the new millennium and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, let's simply get right into it, talk about the Bud Shootout. But first, before the Bud Shootout, there was the Bud Qualifier, or the last chance sort of races. Basically, people, how the Bud Shootouts always worked, where people get into it if they had poles and whatnot throughout this the 1999 season of the previous year, which was 99, obviously. So there was 14 drivers that got a pole in 99. And there was one driver in this last chance qualifier that, if they win the race, they move to the Bud Shootout. So one of those drivers was surprisingly Dale Jarrett, Jeff Burton, Terry Labonte. So there was those couple of drivers that were like kind of well known. And Jarrett started last or I don't know. But Jarrett won the qualifier, and how that race all kind of played out was very interesting because there was a lot of tidbits of things that I didn't know. Because for the 2000 Bud Shootout qualifier, I have my notes here. This is how they structured it. So basically what it is there's 25 laps and there's one mandatory pit stop for 2 tires, and no caution flags count, and restarts are double file. So yeah, very interesting. So starting from lap 9 to lap 12 is when the pit window is open for those 2 tires. So that's where people went to pit. And what's really interesting is the announcers made a point that the Rainbow Warriors pit crew for Jeff Gordon went to Dale Jarrett in 2000, which is interesting because those pit crew from around that time period were very damn good. So Jarrett now had those pit crew, and they had the right side tire stop, and it was about like a 7.3 second one, which was really good for that time period. And Jarrett went from mid-pack or something to being out in the lead, but I'm getting ahead of myself because there was a first lap incident between Kenny Wallace and some other cars, Rick Mass as well. It just seemed like a racing sort of incident. Spencer was on the outside of Kenny Wallace, and it looks like Wallace kind of slid up the track a little bit. Spencer tried to kind of give him room, but there was just not enough, and there was a wreck there. So there was that wreck. Also, it was really interesting too because I looked up on Racing Reference. Apparently, there was 19 cars entered for the race, and there was only 11 that actually participated. So I'm assuming those other 8 might have saved their stuff for the duels in the 500, possibly. So that was interesting to note. And so there was pretty much 11 cars in the race, and with that incident, there was only now 8 race car drivers on the track. So after the restart and after that kind of went through, and then they had their pit stop, the last pretty much second half of the race was just nothing. Nothing happened because Jarrett had his pit stop. He got out to a huge lead, and Jeff Burton and Terry Labonte were drafting each other, and they could not catch Jarrett, which is insane because normally if you have 2 cars drafting together, they're normally faster than 1 car, but that was not the case. Jarrett pulled away from like a 1.9 second lead to over 5 seconds. Yeah, that was not very fun to watch. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm very aware that the Yates engines in that time were really strong, but you would think 2 cars, would pull up to them or do something or maybe stabilize the gap, but that didn't really work out. So yeah, it was just weird. So that, unfortunately, like that second half of the race, nothing much happened after the pit stop. So it's just nothing happened. Again, the qualifier was only 25 laps, and the race was, again, obviously so short, and there's only so little cars. I don't even know if it's even fair to give it a rating. I mean, like the very first lap and like I guess the restart after was kind of interesting, but then after that it kind of seemed to kind of chill out a bit. So I don't even know what to give it. Maybe a 5 because it was just very mediocre. But one thing I did noticed in the very beginning part of this is they said that they they changed the cars up from 99 to 2000. The front bumpers and the back bumpers were changed. Like they're redesigned for the Fords, Chevys, and Pontiacs. So I don't know if that played into a factor, because this was the very first like competitive race with this sort of thing. And also in the race they mentioned, or Jeff Byrne mentioned, that NASCAR mandated the same shocks and the same springs, which was interesting. So yeah, this little things like that was kind of neat to see, because notoriously the 2000 Daytona 500 was so awful. So it's neat to see what the Speed Weeks was like, you know, prior to that. And to my surprise, the actual Bud Shootout itself, again, was only 25 laps, had the same sort of structure as the Bud Shootout qualifier, and it was a pretty damn good race. It honestly was. Like, pretty much from almost flag to flag. I mean, one, you had like 15 cars, because Jared won that, because he did actually get the pole for the Sunday Daytona 500, but that obviously doesn't count because the Bud Shootout counts from the previous year's pools, so it was just something to note. But yeah, Jared started all the way back in last, and he had a kind of a hard time getting up through the field, which was interesting because he was so good in the qualifier. But I don't know if that's saying much, because he was racing with a lot of just not good cars. I mean, really the only two that seemed to be on Jared's tier was actually, oh my god, I forgot, freaking Ricky Craven too. He led 7 laps in that qualifier and held his own in a, I'm assuming, shitmobile car. So hell yeah, Ricky Craven, that was awesome. And then he had a vibration and his race was over, but he led 7 laps. That was amazing. That was good shit. I like that. So yeah, just I was just shocked, because in the qualifier too, Jarrett was, I believe, in the back, and he was having a hard time, I guess, adjusting to the track or the car, because for a couple laps it seemed like they were talking about him turning right in the corner to keep it going straight, or turning. It was weird. But yeah, it was yeah, it's just interesting. So then we get to the actual, you know, shootout, and it's really good. Again, one thing you notice right off the bat is, you know, one thing to take into account, this was before the yellow line rule, so if you had a good restart on the car in front of you, you could just duck down low and make it 3 wide and all that sort of stuff, which I'm like, yes, I liked it, because I don't know, it was just nice to see drivers make a move and not be so restricted on the racetrack. I know it's for safety and all this sort of shit, but it didn't seem like the double yellow line rule, like, it never seemed like that was such a dangerous thing prior. There was, like, what, 1 or 2 incidents prior? The 99 Talladega race, if I remember, where Skinner blocked or something, and they, like, Skinner admitted, like, it was his fault or something for doing that. But I don't know, it was just nice to see drivers actually kind of, you know, if they have a run, you can make a pass and do that sort of stuff. And so that was nice. It was, I liked that. That was good. I was fine with that. That was good shit. So, yeah, it's like the actual race itself, like, was really good. And it seemed like, you know, the cars were not so insanely aerodynamically dependent on, like, you could race side by side. There was cars being 3 wide at some points, like, early on. And yeah, it was good stuff. Also, Daytona, the track was really worn. It was, last time it was repaved was in 1979 or somewhere around there, so it's already had a good amount of age to it, even by 2000. And yeah, the cars looked like they were a handful to drive. It seemed like, you know, it was more focused on, like, mechanical grip. So that it was good. Like, for the most part, it was good. The only problem, I guess, is when they got to the pit stops, the field kind of began to spread out a little bit. And one thing I did notice, because Jared was about mid-pack before the pit stop happened, he pitted a lap after all the other cars on, like, lap 10. The field pitted on, like, lap 9. So it was him and Terry Labonte. And unbelievably, Jared went from mid-pack to being, like, 3rd, which was crazy, because normally when you undercut the field, or normally if you if you pit a lap later, normally you don't gain spots. But I think, again, it's because of how good the pit crew was that gave Jarrett, like, all those spots. So that was really, I guess, interesting to see that. Even when Jarrett just pitted a lap later, he was still able to gain spots. So that was crazy, at least in my opinion. Also, down pit road, Mark Martin hit a pit crew member. I never knew that. So that was interesting, and I guess because of that incident, he was out of the race, which I don't know. They never really updated on, like, if there was a rule, like, where somebody hits some pit crew member in the Bud Shootout, like, they're just automatically just disqualified, or was there just a lot of damage to the car itself just not worth racing? I'm not too sure, but yeah, that it happened. So it was, and again, I just have to say, like, the broadcasting, spot on. I mean, it was just so nice to have people know what they're talking about, have good camera angles, know when to show stuff, and, like, everything. Like, they even interviewed the pit crew member that got hurt and asked him, like, just things like that. Things where they're talking about other drivers going to the garage, or just little things. Like, it was rock solid. It was good. It was good stuff. That's why I feel like the 500 is really gonna make the difference. And, like, the race might be shit, but at least the broadcasting was pretty good. So at least that's the vibe I'm gonna get here, rewatching it fresh for the first time in years. So yeah, and what was surprising was, the only thing I did, what kind of sucked, was there was a good waiting game for, like, the last good chunk of laps after the pit stop. Because we had Sterling Marlin out in front, Jeff Gordon second, Jarrett third, and there was maybe a 5-car single file sort of lane. And again, maybe because I'm just so used to watching, you know, modern day racing, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, you know, why aren't they making a move? You know, this is, but to my surprise, it seemed like that was on purpose. It seemed like the cars were able to make the pass around the car or make a move and all that sort of stuff. And also, you have to keep in mind that there was a second pack behind, like, 5th place, which was Bobby Labonte and other cars back. I don't know all of them back there, but there was a second pack behind them trying to catch the main pack. So with around 2 laps to go, they actually begin trying to make a move on Sterling Marlin. And it was good shit. I mean, it was nice. It was awesome. And because of that, all the racing that they were doing up in front with those 2 laps, that second pack caught up to that first pack of the field, and Bobby Labonte had a hell of a run, and Dale Jarrett decided just to move up into Labonte's lane, and that gave Jarrett, like, a huge run, and he just went, like, on the outside, took the lead on the last lap. Just epic, badass shit. And then there was a wreck going to the line, looked very similar to the first lap in the qualifier sort of scenario. But this time, Ricky Rudd flips over, which is like, well, considering his career, like, he already flipped there once in '84, so that was just kind of just crazy that it happened again. It wasn't, like, super severe or anything, but yeah, it was really just rock solid, really good. Like, for the most part, it was nice. I was worried that if they were going to be single file and, like, oh, no, they're not going to make a move or something. I mean, obviously, you know, I've done these, like, every win video, so I know how it ended, but it was just neat to see how the entire events played up to that point and everything. So it was good. Like, the shootout for being 25 laps, and it was really pretty damn good, honestly. Way better than the qualifier. But yeah, and also maybe it's just me watching, but it did seem like maybe side drafting seemed to be a thing, because you seem like you could kind of pull the car back a little bit. It wasn't, like, super extreme like how it is now, but it did seem like you can stall their momentum a little bit, because once they got racing with, like, those 2 laps to go, that's when that second pack of the field just came flying through. So I mean, it might play a factor, but it's not as crazy as it is nowadays. I can at least say that much, at least from watching that. So yeah, it was good. The shootout was, the qualifier was a 5 or even a 4. I don't, who knows what I'll rate it, but 5, or the Bud shootout was probably like an 8 out of 10 to me. I mean, it was just really good. So yeah, it was really entertaining. I was surprised with how good that was, considering how I know the 500 would be later. So yeah, it was good. So yeah, I don't know what more to say. I'm looking forward to seeing how the duels play out, because 2018 duels were so bad. I wonder how they were back then. I'm sure, obviously they mean a lot more because there was more cars in the field and more chances for people to be out. So there was actual like drama of what car can make the 500 instead of everybody being locked in because the charter system sucks. So yeah, well, we'll just see. I don't know what to truly expect watching the race in full, but that was a pretty good start to everything, and it was a really fun time. I definitely encourage anybody, if they've never watched older races, absolutely do, because it is surreal to think like how different the sport's changed and how much, like, you know, even attendance, the everything was, it seems so much better. Now I'm pretty sure there'll be races here and there that'll suck. I mean, not every race is going to be magically amazing, but this was a pretty decent start. So yeah, I'll see you all for the Gatorade duels and see how those kind of race and play out, and see if they change the aerodynamics or anything from the shootout to the duels or something, because the 500 was so bad. Like, I just wonder like what went wrong. So it'll be interesting to see. So I'll see you all in the next race review, and as always, have a good day, everyone.